Checking in the ball games, Calvin Smith, the freshman out of Hahnville. Camp to throw, has times, got a man wide open. It's caught in stride. It's DiMaggio, 40, 30, foot race, 20, to the house. Just like that, the Lions strike. Carson Camp to Jalen DiMaggio. Lions on top, 6-0.
It was only a matter of time, Mark. They're playing up close. There's no safety backed up, and a nice little post route. And Jalen had about 2 or 3 yards on the cornerback.
82 yards. And DiMaggio beat coverage and outran up to the end zone.
And welcome to a special edition of the Southeastern Sports Network podcast. I'm Mark Willoughby, and this is the Chalk Talk version. And we've got the man Robbie Mahfouz joining me, and we're going to talk, kind of wrap up East Texas A&M on this past Saturday. Southeastern winning 59-14. Another dominant win for this football team, and then take a look at the Lamar game coming up. Big one coming up in the Southland Conferences. One game separates 3 teams, and a lot's going to happen this weekend. So, Robbie, big win on Saturday. Southeastern knocks off East Texas A&M. I think we all felt like Southeastern was, the better team going in, but boy, were they dominant.
Yeah, and it's the second game in 3 weeks that I was nervous about the game. McNeese was the other one. And both situations, I mean, we just completely dominated. I think at this point in the season, you just have to realize how good a team we have.
Yeah, we've seen that. We saw it back in the spring. We saw it early in camp. You saw the makings of it. It all started when you returned just a ton of seniors, led by Caleb Proctor, KK Reno. Then you get Ian Connerly Goodley back. Then you get Cam Ford, who gets another year of eligibility, and all of a sudden you compile a ton of seniors, and not just seniors, guys that have been here 5-6 years and are 22, sometimes 23 years old. And when you have that kind of veteran, and you played, when you have those kind of veterans on your team, you had a chance to be pretty good. Then you got a stable coaching staff. You did have to replace the offensive line coach, but Sam Gregg stepped in, hasn't missed a beat, a veteran bunch up front, and it really starts on the line of scrimmage, and that's where games are won and lost.
Right, and you go back and talk about the defense. They've all been in the system long enough to where they don't have to think anymore. They just play. And, you can have a senior-laden team and you get a new defensive coordinator in there, and you may have problems for a while. But this group has picked right up where they left off from last year defensively. And you can just see them during the ball game. They're never out of position. They always make good calls and to get them in good positions, and they just play well.
Now, typically when we talk about great defenses, usually it's somebody that's got some exotic scheme, and they're blitzing from all over the place. They're doing all kinds of stunts and just trying to trick people. And this team is stunningly good because of simplicity. And talk about that. Why is that? This team can rush 4, drop 7 in coverage and cover, and play the game basically just technique sound and win battles. Talk about that.
Yeah, when you can play a base defense, and our base defense is a 4-man front, and depending on what the formation is, we'll either have 1 or 2 linebackers in the box. We play a cover 2 shell, and we can roll it either way. We can bring someone off the safety and roll the other guy to the middle to help for run support. But, it starts off looking the same way nearly every snap. And I think, Mark, that's one of the reasons why we don't give up any big plays. We're back there with 2 safeties. We get pressure on the quarterback with a 4-man rush. It's not like now when we've had a little trouble this year, it's been against quarterbacks who can extend the play. But if we keep someone in the pocket or if we flush them out and get them in trouble, they don't have a chance. and we're good enough in the secondary cover-wise, especially at cornerback, where if we have to cover for an extra half a count, we're able to do it.
Yeah, but
the simplicity of it is you're able to. I mean, we blitz when we want to blitz, not when we have to, and there's a difference. Some teams blitz when they have to. We blitz when we want to.
And I think that's the difference in this Frank Selfo football team from other playoff teams that he's had. And of course, this team's not there yet, but in the past when they've had good football teams, you play well and you can create havoc because you're sending pressure from all over. I know Lance Guidry, there was not a blitz he didn't love, but it left you vulnerable against good teams, could pick that stuff up and give up a lot of big plays and a lot of points. But now you've got, front four led by Caleb Proctor, who can get pressure inside. You've got Josh Randall off the edge who can fly, who's a nightmare for any tackle. Roland Briggs is quietly had an outstanding season. You got Ahmad Bradley at 330, 40 pounds or whatever he is. He just kind of plugs the middle. And then you got a ton of depth. We saw that in spades the other night, coming off the bench, 5 sacks. And I think there was one nobody had multiple sacks. And it was all D-line pressure. And then you throw in KK Reno and those guys at linebacker, and there's not a tackle. He just doesn't leave enough tackles for anybody else. Seems like he's constantly getting them. And then you go to the secondary. We got Ian Connerly, Goodley, Cam Ford. It just really it's kind of something to behold. Watch this defense play. Let's talk about East Texas A&M. I know you mentioned you were kind of nervous coming in. I think a lot of people were because they were playing really well. They got off to the record wasn't great coming in, but you look at, once they got healthy, should have beat Lamar, didn't, lost kind of that fluky, game that made national TV. You go down, you beat UIW 52-45. Nobody saw that coming. And then you have SFA on the ropes. That ball game's, tight in the second half before SFA pulled away by 10. So this is a team that came into this building 2 years ago and won. 3 years ago and won. Then there was a blowout in Commerce, and last year was kind of a tight game. 21-9 was the score. So, is this going to be another one of those? But boy, started off quick. They drove the ball a little bit on the opening drive, quarterback runs. Defense got it settled down, pinned the Lions on the 3-yard line, and then Carson Camp, really went to work. Talk about Camp's play.
Yeah, he did. Initially, and this is real important. When you get pinned up inside your 5, your first goal is to get 1 first down at least, so you have room to punt the ball. We did that, and we both commented during those first 3 or 4 plays. The defense that East Texas was continuously lining up in, was made them vulnerable to a deep ball. And sure enough, Carson gets up there, audibles to it. They were playing cover 0. There was no one in the middle of the field, and audible, to a real easy post route to Jalen through a great pass. And I think 86 yards or 84 yards later, we're standing in the end zone. And they continued to play that coverage, and we continued to take advantage of it.
Let's go back to that play. You played the position, so and a lot of times when a guy's wide open, sometimes that's the hardest throw to make because he is so wide open.
It is.
But he hit him in stride, never broke stride, and it was tight coverage, not tight coverage, but he was tight enough to where a lot of guys get run down if he's got to stop or whatever and alter his stride. But he hit him in stride. It's 82 yards, and the big guy housed it and kind of set the tone in that ball game. But again, Carson Camp, a lot of checks at the line of scrimmage, probably more than we've seen in recent weeks.
Yeah, and it was an outstanding check in that situation. Now, it might not be something that you would do from your own 3, but once we got that first down and we had some room, I think it was a first down play. I might be mistaken there that he audible to it. But, it's something that you game plan. and you hope your quarterback has got enough confidence to take advantage of when he sees something that's being given to him by the defense that he go ahead and call it. Why not? And it was a really, really good throw.
Of course, he came back to it later in the game. I think on the second drive that offense had, because they scored a punt return. The second drive he was out there, hit DiMaggio again, this time on the other side, and set up another touchdown. So, again, Carson Camp, outstanding game. Let's talk about the offense.
I thought it was his best game of the year, Mark. And he had a rough start. Both of them did against Houston Christian. And but I thought this was by far his best game. He made some really good throws.
He did, and you could see it in practice last week. And of course, I think you and I talked about it, kind of what they worked on in practice, what they thought they were going to see, they did. And almost like their eyes lit up, and it worked. So let's talk about the offensive line. This is a group that, we spent a lot of time talking about the defensive line, the, running backs, other players on the team. This offensive line's quietly one of the most dominant in the country, probably. And it starts up front with Holden Kariakowski. You've got seniors, Javin Turner, Corin Boudreaux's been here a while. Logan Potter's been here a while. And then, of course, Noah Devlin on the right side at tackle. But playing a lot of guys, 7, 8, 9, sometimes 10 players up front, liberally through the game. And just talk about the job they did in this football game.
Yeah, and they've been doing it all year. I think we went through the whole game without a sack this past week. We're consistently gaining, in the mid-hundreds rushing each week, which is big. It helps keep the ball away and from the other team. And our time of possession throughout the year has been really good, keeping the ball away. And the offensive line has a lot to do with all the first downs we get each week. We're averaging like 24 first downs a game in FCS, and that's phenomenal, Mark. They have a new coach, but they've been playing together for, I think this is some of them there. They've been playing with each other for 3 years. And there's nothing that they haven't seen this year. Nothing rattles them. They're good run. It's very unusual to see an offensive line that can run block and pass block. There's a lot of teams that are going to protect the quarterback pass blocking, but their run game suffers. But not Southeastern. We're good on both ends of that.
And I think that goes back to player evaluation and also development. But, this, everybody's looking for the 6'5", 6'6", 6'7", long arm offensive lineman with feet. Well, there aren't that many of them out there, but the staff's done a good job finding that 6'1", 6'2", 6'3", and under guy that can move and has football, good football players. And they've done a good job stockpiling that kind of player and then developing them over time. These are guys that have marinated in the system, maybe didn't play early, kind of bided their time. Now in their second, third, fourth year in the system, it's their time to shine. And, boy, they're playing well,
Right. We don't have any sloppy looking people on either side of the ball. I mean, they're all athletic, everyone that steps out on that field on the offensive line is an athlete. We don't have any slow-footed people. They're all athletic. They can all run, and it's just one of those years, man, where we're blessed in that respect.
No doubt about it. Of course, they blocked for a solid stable of running backs. What would happen when Antonio Martin left in the portal? You kind of spread, not one guy getting all the carries, kind of spreading it out by committee, and led here recently by DeAndre Jackson. But you're seeing the freshman C.J. Smith, his workload has increased. Jaden Henry, a transfer from Valdosta State's been that solid between a tackle guy, could catch the ball in the backfield a little bit. And then now all of a sudden we're starting to see a new guy, Kyrie Paul, get healthy. He flashed the other night. So all of a sudden you still have Rodeo Graham in the backfield as well, but you're seeing a solid stable of backs who are diverse. And Brandon Hayes has worked some in the backfield as well. Just talk about how they've played to this point.
Yeah, was a real question mark coming into spring and fall camp, and my goodness, it doesn't matter. It seems like it doesn't matter who they put in. They're all good. I mean, there's no drop off, no matter who's in the ball game. And then, and what's the kid's name that came in last week that had been hurt? Paul.
Yeah, Kyrie Paul.
Yeah, I mean,
true freshman. Yep.
Yeah, he's as good as You're not going to see anybody better than that, and he's the fourth guy. And
maybe.
So, yes. But for a position that we were a little worried about coming in, that's really taken care of itself. And you and I have talked about this. There's not a position on the field on offense that we're not better this year than we were last year, and that's why one of the reasons we're playing so good.
Yeah, and again, it's guys that don't care who shares they share the credit. I mean, it's not hey, I got to be the guy. Because there's so many guys play on this really both sides of the football, because it's not you play all 11 starters and then in the third or fourth quarter you start subbing out. I mean, these guys are subbing early, and you're seeing it across the board: offensive line, running back, of course, wide receiver. We talked about Jalen DiMaggio, and now here comes Dakai Joseph finally starting to work his way in at wide receiver. Has kind of already worked his way into the return game. He's returned a punt for a touchdown, a second of the year, but a couple of really big catches right before the half. Catches a kind of a deep over the middle throw to set up the touchdown, which might have been the best throw of the year by Carson Camp. Talk about Dakai Joseph. Yeah,
and he's taken the role that Jalen stepped into last year, if you recall, as far as stepping up and giving us someone else to throw to besides the number one guy, which Jalen is this year, obviously. But we've gotten loads better at the wide receiver position, and Alvin, coach, does a good job with them. Much better route runners this year as a whole, as a group. And, it gives us more weapons. And, you add the guys coming out of the backfield who can catch. And, if you're a defensive guy, you got to pick your poison. Who are we going to try to stop on this offense in the passing game?
And let's not forget,
because you can't stop everybody.
You're right. And let's not forget the tight ends. Cade Collier's, his sixth year. He's, had some big catches. Aiden Wilkinson's, again, not flashy numbers, but, made some great catches and big catches this season. And then you got the true freshman Lonnie Shin, who looks like $1 million physically, and his role continues to expand. So, you're seeing Anthony Selfo, again, compared to last year when you had no options, basically. You had one, turn around and hand it off to 22.
Right.
He ran for 1,200 yards, but the passing game struggled. You're kind of a sitting duck in the pocket. Now you've got quarterbacks that are mobile. You've got guys that can take the ball and make a big play, and you got guys that can get it to them. So,
right. You've got different packages that Anthony, there's 3 or 4 personnel packages that he has at his disposal, where we didn't have that last year. Like you said, last year it was turn around, hand the ball off to Antonio, basically. This year, you've got different packages. You've got screens. You've got all kinds of folks you can throw screens to this year, and I think we've done a really good job with that. Anthony's done a good job with the bootlegs and the naked boots and moving the pocket a little bit. If you notice, we've kind of gotten away from running the straight sprint outs. We don't do that anymore. I felt like that was one thing that we were not good at, so we stopped doing it. Mm-hmm. And to Anthony's credit, and he's got so many weapons to work with, and I know he's he's like a kid in a candy store with that.
It should be. Of course, you got two quarterbacks that bring something a little different to the table, but can do what the other one does. And it's not like one's a thrower, one's a runner. They can both do both. One's a little bit better at one than the other, but again, two very diverse guys who, again, don't mind that they share the credit, and just great guys. You saw that interview on the game notes with on PBS was just outstanding. Just to hear those guys talk about each other and their role in this offense. So when you got guys like that, man, makes for a lot of fun.
Yeah, and
go ahead.
I was going to say I can see in the last 2 weeks maybe just a little bit of separation between Carson and Kyle, where Carson is kind of stepping up a little bit, and I don't want to say taking over, because I don't think you're going to see a situation where Carson takes 75% of the snaps in one ball game. That's just not going to happen. But you can see that he's playing with a lot more confidence, and I've been waiting for that all year. Somebody to kind of establish themselves, and you could see that happening with Carson the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, he's definitely elevated. I mean, again, this is a guy that was a starter, at South Dakota back as a true freshman and during the COVID year, and of course transferred to Sacramento State. Tears his knee up, missed last year, so he's finally playing himself into the guy I think everybody thought he would be back then. And of course, Kyle Lowe was his first year really playing, and he played a little bit last year, so he's a year behind. But both are playing well. If you add them up together statistically, they're in the top 10 in the country as far as passing efficiency and how they run the offense. So you got to look at it as a package deal. But good stuff there. Let's talk quickly about special teams. Ross Jenkins, year after year, continues to just churn out great special teams, and this year no different. The return game has been outstanding. Only team in the country that has 2 punt returns, 2 kickoff returns for touchdowns. Right. It doesn't end there, but let's talk about the return.
Right, and it's such a weapon. It's such a field position type thing, knowing that, even if you don't break them for a touchdown, you catch your punt and return it 15 yards up the field. Well, you've won that field position back. And we're consistently doing that on kickoff returns and punt returns. And, you're about to mention our coverage teams, which are outstanding to the point where, we've seen this during ball games. Teams would rather fair catch it at the 5-yard line, and so they can get it at the 25, because odds are they're going to be inside the 20 if they try to return it. That's big.
Yeah, I mean, because if you fair catch it, you get it to 25. So anytime you tackle inside the 25, that's hidden yardage that adds up.
Exactly.
And then plus, the punt return game. Now, we'll talk about Lamar coming up. They're one of the better return units as well up there with Southeastern. So they're going to definitely have to be keyed in when they face Lamar this weekend. But, punting, you have 2 punters. Jack Hunter's kind of been recently due to an injury to Alec Mahler. Both those guys have been averaging about 42 yards a punt, so that's been sound. The field goal unit's probably been the one area where, of course, you miss 2 50-yarders. It's kind of hard to ding a guy for missing 50 and out. But good to see Guillermo Garcia Rodriguez knock down a 43-yarder on Saturday.
Right, and like we've said during the broadcast, there's going to be a game this year where it's going to come down to that, And, Lamar's got a kid that's 12 out of 14 on field goals, hit a 57-yarder to beat UTRGV. And, we're going to need a field goal at some point this year. I mean, we've been blowing everybody out, but it ain't going to be like that, the whole year. But our special teams, like you said, Ross just continues to dial it up on special teams, and what a great addition, to our offense and defense to also have one of the best special teams in the country.
Yeah, no doubt. And again, the schedule is what it is. Southeastern's been dominant versus FCS competition. That's going to ramp up this weekend. I'll segue into our next topic, Lamar. Coming up, I think this game's kind of been circled since early on, especially the way they've been playing. They had a hiccup at UIW this past week. I think you got to discount that. UIW is a good football team. They just haven't been playing well and finally put one together. But we knew this stretch run with Lamar, UIW following that, and the Nichols to close out the season is going to tail the tale. But let's talk about the Lamar Cardinals. What do you see so far?
I see a team that and I waited till halfway through the season to start really looking at statistics, because I believe that's when you can start to get a feel for a team, after 5 or 6 ball games. And Lamar has been one of those teams that seems to enjoy digging a hole early in the ball game and then finding a way to get out of the hole. And just looking statistics wise, Lamar is averaging their offense less than 300 yards per game, and they're 7-2. Now, how does that happen? Well, if you don't turn the ball over, and you have a decent running game, and you have a good defense, and you have good special teams, that's how that happens, and that's what they have. They're not flashy on offense, but they're effective, and they have a really, really, really good defense.
Well, they remind me of, some of those Missouri Valley teams, those teams up north, CAA, because that's where Pete Rosamondo comes from. He comes from the Northeast, and, kind of how they have to play football up there because of the weather. And, of course, in the old days, there wasn't turf everywhere. So it was kind of that blood and guts and mud and bad weather. So you had to shorten the game, drag out the play clock, run fewer plays, and just kind of get in the mud and make a sloppy game of it. And that's kind of how they play. That's how they played Southeastern the last 2 years. They came in here to Strawberry Stadium 2 years ago, stole a win against Southeastern, a game Southeastern probably outplayed them, except turned the ball over, did score a couple times in the red zone, and ended up losing a close one. Lamar had some big plays to win it. Last year, Lamar jumps out in front. I think it was 14-0 early. Southeastern coming off that UIW loss, just not a ton of energy to start, dug themselves a big hole, and then, of course, took a pick six to kind of get them jump-started, and then really took over from there and ended up winning in overtime. But that's how Lamar plays. All of their wins this year have been one-score wins, or most of them, except for one. But they're good at it. So it's something that, Southeastern's going to have to go in there with a mindset to get to, be tough and try to win one in the fourth quarter.
Right. And the last 3 games we've played have not been very stressful. And I think we're ready mentally for a tough ball game, which I think this one's going to be. And a couple of things in my mind anyway to look for. One is special teams. Okay. Cause they have a really good, across the board special teams, really good. Mm-hmm. Kick return, punt return. They're only giving up an average of 2 yards per punt return when they punt. Now that's phenomenal. Okay,
it is.
So who can win the special teams battle? The other thing is third downs. Mark, we're 45% converting third downs. They're 28% on defense. The other team converting third down. So
something's got to give, right?
Yeah, something's got to give right there. And if we can win the third down battle, that's going to go a long way as well.
Just talking about them individually. Robert Coleman has been their starter. They've also had McCown, the backups played as well. So what do you see out of those guys?
Very consistent. They're not going to lose a ball game for you, and I think that's their personality, is to play good defense and try to stay in the ball game and win it in the fourth quarter. Now their worst quarter is the first. defensively and offensively. Their best quarter is the fourth. So, I mean, that's how their season's been going. You know, they'll get behind early, fight their way back, and try to win it in the fourth quarter.
That's.
I mean, this is not a team you can rest against. In other words, because they're going to try to find a way to win the ball game.
Well, that's a quarter that you want to win, the fourth quarter, no doubt. You look at their running game, Xavier Coleman, not flashy stats, 346 yards, 4.6 yards a carry. They haven't run it as well this year as they have in the past. If you look at it overall, I think they are, where are we here? I think they're about 132, 133 yards a game rushing.
130 yards, and that's not bad. I think they're 130 rushing, and I don't know, right at
165, yeah,
160 passing. They're very very balanced. Most of their first downs have come on the ground, which is a little out of the ordinary. They get most of their first downs running the ball, and like I said, they're just a very, you can tell they're well coached. They don't turn the ball over. They don't have a lot of penalties, and they just try to stay in there. And they're confident enough as a team to where they think if they're in the ball game in the fourth quarter, they'll find a way to win it.
Of course, they only give up 116 yards a game rushing, right at about 198 passing. But taking a look at some more individuals for them. Kenneth Fuselier, their best player probably, 38 catches, also the best return guy. He's the weapon they want to get to. Blake Thomas is another, a big play guy. But biggest thing, they're going to try to win it on defense. And look at that side of the football. Christian Pugh, 4.5 tackles for loss. C.J. Miller, 5.5 tackles. They're kind of spread out, but they have some other guys, Ronnie Hamrick, Andrew Huff. They get a lot of sacks as well. Southeastern has 29 coming in. I think they have 22. So they're a team with heavy TFL and sacks.
And their defensive front is very good, and they'll do some slants, and they don't play straight up all the time. They'll slant here and there, and which it can be good, and if you slant the wrong way or somebody doesn't fill a gap, you can gash them. But they tackle well. They're just a good, solid football team, and it's going to be. But like I said, I think we're ready for a game like this. We're ready for one of those knockdown, drag out games. And the other thing, Lamar lost last week, but they still control their own destiny.
That's right.
And they know that. They play. They got us, and then Stephen F. And they're thinking we win those two ball games. We get the automatic bid, and they ain't far from wrong with that,
No, you're not. And I'll tell you, how crazy this whole thing is. The Southland Conference coming in, you listen to the chattering class around the country. It's a one-bid league, that sort of thing, kind of was last couple of years, actually. But then talk of two teams and then talk of three, because Southeastern and SFA don't play each other. And, of course, you got Lamar there and all having a good season. And you start looking at all kinds of scenarios that play out. I mean, there's a scenario where it's Southeastern and Lamar get in. SFA gets left out if depending on how things fall, or, God forbid, Southeastern struggle and be left out. Yeah.
Right. We're thought of as a one team league, to get in. But you're looking at a scenario where you might have a 10-win team and two 9-win teams.
And three are getting in. Yeah, three. I just don't see how a 9-win team. Now, I will say this: SFA has a non-D1. They have a NAI win on their schedule. So, and they lost an FCS game. So there's a chance they could be 8-1 versus the FCS, which would kind of maybe put them a little bit on the bubble if they were to drop a game, the game to Lamar or another game, which I don't see happening. But, as it plays out around the country, there were a ton of upsets this week nationally. And I think that's kind of thrown some things. Everybody kind of looks at it and says, okay, if this team wins out, this team wins out, this team wins out. Well, all of a sudden, 7 or 8 top 20 teams lost. And
Right.
so now I think it's all going to work itself out. So if you win 9 games in a 12-game schedule and at least 8 of them are Division I, pretty good chance you're going to get in the playoffs, I think.
Yeah.
Southeastern was left home at 7-5 last year. They were 7-2 versus or 7-3 versus the FCS. You had the 2 close losses to UIW and Tarleton, and you had the loss to South Dakota State. And thus they didn't get in. So even though the schedule was tough. So I think 8 wins is that magic low threshold on a 12-game schedule. 9 gets you in, I think. So, but we got to win this one first, and
Right.
And talking about that as we wrap things up, what do you see happening on Saturday? What does Southeastern have to do to come out victorious?
First thing, we have to take advantage of the first quarter discrepancy with Lamar's offense and defense and jump out ahead of them. It's happened to them all year, and we need to continue that. We need to, especially on the road, to jump out to a lead. And I'll say it again, man. To me, the third down is going to be a big, big thing, big deal here in this ball game. If we can convert third downs, keep the ball, away from them and get some drives. And, Frank says this all the time, penalties and turnovers. But I really think that this is going to be a game where we're locked in on both sides of the ball. Like I said, the last 3 weeks have been relatively easy for us. It hasn't been for Lamar, okay? And I think we'll be up to the challenge to play our best game of the year.
Well, yeah, I think going back to last year, this team's on a mission. I think we know that. They felt like they were snubbed from the playoffs last year, and you've got a ton of seniors that had taken it personally. They've come back willingly, and I think you've got enough leadership in that locker room that they're going to take the bull by the horns. Now, again, Lamar's a great opponent. They're going to be tough. Got to go in there and play well. But again, you talk about third down being important. You got to do well on first down, though. You got to get the third meeting. To keep third down viable. It's tough to those 3rd and 10s are tough. But Robbie, good stuff, man. Let me do more of this as we go. Rest of the year, like talk ball and talk Lions and talk about the opponents. Hopefully it continues. It's a great start, 7-2, looking to go 8-2. Versus a very good Lamar team. We'll be there right here on the Southeastern Sports Radio Network. And
enjoying this like I've never enjoyed watching Southeastern football, and it's because of the defense. Everybody likes to watch offense, but when you have a defense like we have, it makes for a really, really enjoyable football game to watch.
Well, real quick, I know we, not to jump out, trying to wrap it up here, but how rare is it? This is a team that has 29 sacks. They're in the top 10 in the country in sacks as a team in the FCS. I think 27 of them come from the front 4.
4-man rush.
4-man rush, and they're spread out. Proctor has 7, but you've got backups. I mean, everybody's in on the action. It's not just 2 or 3 guys getting all the sacks. It's spread out, and it's all front 4. So how rare is that?
Yeah, and it's and we touched on it earlier about how it allows you to put pressure on the quarterback and still cover the receivers, and that is just absolutely huge. As a quarterback, ex-quarterback, and as a coordinator, if I know you're blitzing, I got something for you, okay? But if you can put pressure on me without blitzing, that's a whole different animal right there.
Man, we saw it Saturday night. We saw the phantom pressure actually get to the quarterback, where he kind of sacked himself a couple of times because he felt pressure that maybe wasn't there yet. And then it came as well. But Robbie, that's great stuff, man. I've been wanting to do this all season. Hopefully we'll continue doing this the rest of the way. And as Southeastern marches, hopefully toward a playoff bid. And finish up what looks like hopefully a great season. So for Robbie Mahfouz, I'm Mark Willoughby for this special edition of called the Chalk Talk edition of the Southeastern Sports Network podcast. We will see you from Lamar and Beaumont, Provost Humphrey Stadium. It's a 3 o'clock kick. If you can't make it, it's not a far of a drive. Drive over there if you can. If you can. If you can't make it, watch it on ESPN Plus and then tune us in. Just sync it up where you got the sound with the TV and listen to the radio. So we'll be on the Southeastern Sports Radio Network, KG107.1 and all their affiliates. So for Robbie Mahfouz, I'm Mark Willoughby. We'll see you next week on another special edition of the Southeastern